Gravity.
The Paris 2024 Olympics are underway now. We had the opening ceremony, and I've been, obviously, with everyone else in the world, been getting fed advertising which uses the Olympics in some way. Some of it is advertising for the Olympics. Some of it is brands using the Olympics to, leverage celebrities, sporting personalities in order to shift their product. I've seen quite a lot of that kind of thing going around. One that's really caught my eye, and I think is a fantastic example of an advert which is artistically executed and also has some broader message outside of just buy this thing because this celebrity is endorsing it, is Channel 4's advert for the Paralympics. Now, when I first watched this, I didn't know what to expect, and I'm going to look through it now. This is not my first reaction to it, but I'm going to break down a little bit about what I think is going on in the advert. So kind of obvious stuff if we're really looking at it. And then also a little bit about the cinematography, the editing, that kind of thing. And there's a musical element to this as well. And for those of you who know me as Dale, the director, DOP, filmmaker, I actually have a background in music, and that's what I did for a very long time. I studied the guitar, I toured, I played in a duo who went up to Edinburgh Fringe 4 times. So music is something which I do notice a lot, and I can't help but sort of remark on when I hear something which has a motif or an element to it which rhythmically, musically interacts with the other aspects of the cinematography, the directing, the casting, whatever it happens to be. So that's what we're going to look at today. This is Channel 4's advert for the Paralympics, and going to take a look.
That biscotti is delicious. I love the crunch, the flavour, the texture is spot on.
Really good. Both of those biscuits.
Gravity. It's totally self-centered. It wants to introduce your face to the floor, no matter who you are or what you look like. It breaks bones, hearts, and gives middle-aged men boobs. Friction doesn't care. It's not here to make exceptions. You're going its way whether your lycra likes it or not. It's keeping your skin as a souvenir. Time doesn't stop for anyone. Just marches ruthlessly on. It says you're not going to qualify. You won't make the plane. Your pet's not coming back. You're not getting any younger. That force, that headwind, that 200-pound weight, that tennis ball headed straight for your face.
That's a bit of magic.
He's incredible for someone like that.
He's so brave.
She's doing so well, considering.
Considering what?
None of them give a flying toss. Who you are or what your backstory is.
Good for her. For someone like that. For someone like that. For someone like that.
So fast. Considering what? So fast.
For someone like that. For someone like that. Good for her.
So fast.
For someone like that.
So fast.
For someone like that.
So fast.
For someone like that.
They would never say, he's amazing for someone in a wheelchair.
A lot to unpack just there. What I think really caught me when I was watching this advert is I didn't expect it. I wasn't waiting for an advert for the Olympics. This just came up. So right off the bat, it doesn't necessarily tell you what it's about. It is just weird. It's just really odd. It's kind of interior down living room, a little bit strange. There's stuff crashing and you don't know why, and you can't really ascertain where the advert is going in those first few seconds, but it just drew me in, the weirdness, and then the laugh and the crashing, the rhythmic nature of it And then just thinking about how this came about, how it'd be directed, it didn't happen by accident. Everything in that had to be really carefully positioned. You know, the sound design has to be absolutely spot on. The way that it's edited and the way that things kind of ebb and flow and come in and out. The laugh is very prominent at the beginning and it drops off. And there's other things like the skidding. Goodness me, that bit made me just kind of cringe up and just tense, because if anyone has ever skidded on gravel and taken skin off, you know, that's kind of visceral. And they got, I didn't notice it until I watched it through that time. On the fridge, they got a fridge magnet. It's got a little bit of stretched skin on it, you know, Sarah's skin as a souvenir. So they've obviously really thought about the script for this, how the script interacts with the imagery that we're seeing, getting those shots, having the little woo thing. The woo comes in, I think, before we see the guy doing the woo. It's like a J cut, you know, it's like an element of sound coming in before the thing that's making the sound comes in, and then it seamlessly flows into it. And then you get, because it's all so strange, you kind of accept the weirdness at a certain point as just being the advert, but it isn't just that it's weird that's keeping us hooked. It is doing very clever things with how it is interweaving the different elements, and kind of like a relay race, you know, if you want to use a sporting analogy, it's handing off to the next one before you even realize as a viewer that there's a next thing coming up, and then it pulls you into it, and then you're there, you're part of it, and then the other things that you've seen that have stopped will just gradually well back up, and then we get some more imagery of the guy with the pint, you know, laughing, lying on the ceiling or throwing his pint, or even the TV. So the TV crashes onto the ceiling with everything else. Did a video a few weeks ago reacting to Wimbledon adverts, and some of the adverts are just people watching tennis being played. And I think a lot of sports advertising will go to this, because the easy thing, show the sport, show people watching it. And we get that TV on the ceiling showing certain things playing, but then the TV gets smashed. You know, it's still part of the world of this advert. It's not just barefaced showing you the sports. They just want to have, you know, a couple of hits of this. They've actually worked it in. And suddenly we're back into a much more muted, toned down, real world. So we get this montage of people watching going, oh, isn't that crazy? Isn't that amazing for someone like him? And the rest of the ad, we've been getting this motif repeating with the voiceover, which is, by the way, it's a very characterful voice. You know, this voice, it's unusual. It isn't just an announcer type or a young kind of happy regional accent or something. This voice has character for me. You know, it draws me in. It's kind of, again, with everything else, there's an element of oddity about it, something which just sets, with the tone of everything else, sets it apart from normal adverts and really makes you prick up your ears and pay attention. I love it. So when we're going through this section, we are harking back to all of the voiceover sections saying, oh, gravity doesn't care, friction doesn't care, all of these things which you have to fight against that just want to, you know, gravity just wants you on the ground. That's what gravity in the universe, get a little bit weird here, gravity in the universe is what draws everything together. Even though technically, I believe, physicists, correct me if I'm wrong, gravity doesn't exist. Gravity is our way of explaining mass in the curvature of space, and the way that things fall in because of mass. But gravity as a force itself of attraction, like magnetism, say, just things together, it isn't like that. It is more to do with the curvature of space and mass. Anyway, so gravity doesn't care what you are doing, who you are. It's just going to want to get you on the ground. So all of the things that these people are saying get brought up in direct comparison to that, and then you've got the guy at the bus stop at the end who just goes, what? You know, it's just amazing. And then we're back into it with all the weirdness and all the craziness and all the laughter. It comes to a crescendo. This, for me, is a fantastic example of a well-executed creative concept that feels like it's got like singular creative direction. Someone or a very close-knit group of people know exactly what they're trying to do with the script, with the visuals, with the music, with the percussive elements that are happening within the visuals, within the sound design that supports that, with the different beats of the advert, with the story that they're trying to tell, understanding what this means and what people need to come away from this feeling, having learned, whatever you want to say. And then they have stuck with that, because nothing would destroy an advert with as much creative intention as this, as iterations of watering down, or we don't want to say a rude word, we don't want to make it that hard hit. We're a little bit unsure. We've asked around the office, and we think that having the skin on the fridge might be a bit too much for some people. No, keep the skin in. That's the point. You've got to actually commit to it to make it feel like something. As soon as you take out the characterful voice and go with something a little bit more obvious, a little bit more vanilla, as soon as you take out the skin on the fridge, as soon as you take out the minute little bit of cussing, bad words, whatever you want to say,
None of them give a flying toss.
then it just starts to get a little... Oh, we're worried that in the first 10 seconds, it's going to just be a little bit strange and people will switch off from it. The weirdness at the beginning is what drew me in. It's what makes this stand out. So I think that it doesn't work for everything, because you can say, oh, well, you just have to be weird, or you just have to be committed to not worrying about causing offense, or you just have to... It isn't that, and that's a gross misunderstanding and simplification of creative intention and process. It is understanding how all of these different elements fit together, how they can then be offset against the very normal section of the advert, which is just there at the end, and then how that packages up as a whole, rolls it all back in, and then leaves you feeling like you've watched something. It's almost like watching a really cool documentary or a little film, like, I don't know, Being John Malkovich is a film which springs to mind as something which I didn't expect and was just weird, and then you can't stop thinking about it afterwards. Watch Being John Malkovich, it's a great film. He didn't want to do it, by the way. He wanted to get someone else to be the being such and such, and eventually, after many times of being asked, he did it. I'm glad he did. So, apart from that, it's a great ad and it's well directed and it's well executed, there are other things that I really enjoy about this as well, like the cinematography. That's what I'm all about. Take a little look at a frame here. I'm going to pull this up and just going to have a little sketch over the top of it and see what I see. So to begin with, we've got this practical in the background. Always like a practical in the background. It doesn't seem to be playing on the talent all that much. In fact, if we look at what's going on just here, we can see that his downside is actually on the same side as the practical just there, and the practical isn't really giving all that much to him. But it does help to just illuminate the back there and down there, gives a little bit to the wall and helps to cut him out in that sense, and also draw our eye over to that side of the frame, because if we didn't have that there, then you might not look sort of over to him and see the beer. So, there's reasons why you might put the practical there other than just to have the practical in shot. It helps to guide your eye to a certain point in the frame, and the beer isn't massively prominent, but it's definitely a part of the look of the character, of the feel just there. Now, on the right-hand side, we have another quasi-practical source going on, which is all of this in the sort of textured glass just there. Blue, so it's kind of daylight vibe coming in, and then there's another practical behind that, just a little orange glow. And he's getting relatively warm light on him from a relatively frontal position. So although all of the light that we're seeing is behind him, he's definitely getting something fairly large. There's not big shadows on him or anything. Fairly large, so it gets around into his face, and that's the important part there. It isn't just on one side, it's getting around, and it's showing you his belly and his whole front. Definitely hotter on the right-hand side than the left-hand side, but that is a reasonable appraisal of what's going on. And then over to the left, it does drop off very quickly into that area just there. So we've got mixed color temperatures, we've got some practical sources in there, we've got an interesting texture with the glass, and all in all, it's kind of it's a fun frame. He is quite central to this frame. So if you look at everything going on just here, and I have a little bit of an aversion to when people draw all the shapes all over a frame and say, this is using the golden ratio, and this is using quadrants, and this is using thirds, and this is using half framing or split framing, or this is using like triangular framing. Or I think more often than not, yeah, you can justify and you can look at things that way, and there are definitely things that you can draw from that. But I think people do tend to take it to an extreme and try to justify things too much. Here, he's pretty much in the center of frame. There's a lot of leading lines that take you in towards actually the corner behind him. So you see all of the room and everything would be going like that. And then he's off and he's in the middle, which isn't as obvious. But then you do have the lamp, as I mentioned just there, which is the brightest thing within the shot. You know, even on the right-hand side, it doesn't quite feel as hot as that. So that bright lamp helps to bring you over, helps to get your eye into this zone just here, I think, so that you do see his face, which you would have found anyway, because humans find faces, but also the pint of beer. And the shot repeats, you know, with his laughter, so we get a little bit of chance to flip back and forth and look around. So that is cool. I do enjoy that frame. Let's take a screen grab of this one as well. It's got a lot of practical lights again. And looking around, just highlighting, you know, got on the wall just there, got that one just there. A little bit of sunlight maybe peeking in just there. Another lamp, and then something going on in the back with texture glass again. Now, in terms of framing, I feel like the guy is, the guy who's laughing, is sitting just here with his pint. Probably pint on the other side, but yeah. And then he's like, he doesn't exist, or he does exist, or that's got to be him in the future. I'm not quite sure what they're saying with this. There's all kinds of little things dotted around which tell you a little bit about lifestyle and whatnot. So plates on the table, there's stuff on the floor. He's got his wheelchair just here. So again, if we're looking around, there's a lot that is going to tell you about him and his life. And then in the back, we've got all of the craziness starting. So it doesn't immediately for him start where he can see it. He kind of just hears these things and he can't quite work out what's going on. And he's hearing the crashing and he's in a moment going to look up and see it all. So that's kind of cool. In terms of light, the biggest push is coming from the window on the left-hand side just here. So we can see that just there, and it's casting out like this. It feels, interestingly, a little bit warmer on him than the light coming through the window feels like it is. So to me, that suggests there's a source up here somewhere, just probably gridded and focusing in on him, giving him that illumination. On the right-hand side, he is down. So there's definitely more darkness on this side of the frame than there is on the left-hand side. But the whole room is quite down, just with picked out highlights with the practicals and with anything lights are hitting. So it feels cozy is not the word. It's not a cozy frame, but it definitely feels day interior with things for interest. Reminds me a little bit of like Sex Education. A lot of their day interiors had these practicals, but they went for a much warmer, happier tone. This is cooling off a bit, making the practicals feel warm, but not letting that bleed out too much into the rest of the frame. Very cool, very wide frame, lets us look around a bit, and there's plenty that they have set dressed and thought about with this. Let's talk about this frame. So this one and the frames that then come after it, they take a little bit of different tack. So in terms of lighting, everything else felt a certain way. This now feels much more naturalistic. So as a day interior shot, we have a lot that we can see outside. So the window is there and you can actually see what's going on. It's a cloudy day. There's no direct sun. All of the light is coming from that direction. We can see it on the sides of their faces. It's wrapping quite nicely around the mum and the dad. It's a little bit more sidey on the daughter just here, but she's still got a relatively visible downside. It's not like a super high contrast ratio going on just there. And then if you look around the frame, we can see they have lamps. You know, people have lamps in their houses, nothing surprising there. But none of the lamps here are on. It's all daylight vibes. It's all that kind of muted, cloudy day, soft light feel for this. It's also a little bit tighter shot-wise. I mean, it's a wide shot, but it's not as wide as the wide of the guy lying on the sofa. For a 3-shot, you know, with the 3 of them in. Talk about staging as well. It's got a nice feel to it because, you know, the mum has her legs like this, dad's sitting here like this, and then the daughter's down here. So you get quite a nice little flow with how they're positioned. If the mum had her legs down, it would feel a little bit too formal. The daughter's not sitting in that chair, which makes it feel a little bit more relaxed. She's got a bag next to her just there. She's kind of on her phone. So again, thinking about creative, thinking about how you're executing this when you actually get onto set and when you're looking at your characters and how you're going to block them. This is thoughtfully done, nicely blocked, feels natural, goes with the tone of the shot and the way that it's lit and the way that that's meant to feel. And then the conversation being that kind of just around the TV, watching the Paralympics. Oh, aren't they amazing? You know, look at him. Isn't it great that he can go and do this? So that fits perfectly. The tone is spot on. And the lighting is different as well. So it isn't just that they have made the script to fit with this. It isn't just that they have framed it and tried to make it feel like it's just that family having that casual moment. They've also lit it in a different way as well. What can we take away from this? Well, not every advert, if you live in this world of making commercial content, not every advert is going to have the heart and soul of that as a story. So, sure, I'm praising this and saying that it's a really well put together piece and that I really like it. The fact of the matter is, if you are just advertising, I don't know, shoe polish, it isn't going to necessarily have the same impact as that, no matter how hard you work at it. And sometimes you are going to be in a position where you are just executing a simple creative idea in a technically competent fashion, and that's fine, and that's what it does. Not everything is going to be great. And there are other Olympics adverts that I might take a little look at as well, because they are different from this, and yeah, they do feel more like just I'm a sports person, this is a razor, I shave, so come and have a look at this, and aren't I hairless and glossy? So yeah, there's that side of it as well. Nothing wrong with it, but when I do see something that has that core, I think that this is a piece that I will come back to and show people and reference and say, if you are trying to communicate something important and there is something that you want people to take away from, don't be afraid of doing it in a provocative way. Don't be afraid of including things which call people out. Don't be afraid of including things which are a little bit hard to watch sometimes, because if you just sanitize everything that you're doing, well, surprise, surprise, it never gets to the point where it is going to have impact. It never gets to the point where people are going to remember it, and it never gets to that initial spark that you had when you suggested the idea, and everyone looks at it and go, oh yeah, it's fine, it was an okay thing, and yeah, I've forgotten it already. What was it? Gone. This has been my little overview of the Considering What Paris 2024 Paralympic Games advert. Go and watch it without all my commentary. Definitely worth it. And, you know, interact with it. Leave a comment, leave a like so that they make more of this, because this is worthwhile, interesting stuff.